Welcome back to Hidden Power. This is a Pokemon podcast. We are still buzzing from the excitement of Pokemon Legends ZA. Today we're going to be discussing all of the connections between Pokemon Legends ZA and all of the other regions in the Pokemon universe. This includes Kalos, Hoenn, Alola, and Hisui, the other Legends Arceus game. My name is DustyGogoat. Today I'm joined by the LumiosePost.
Hello.
SoulSilverArt.
What's up?
And Blitz. How you doing, buddy?
All is good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So, Pokemon Legends ZA was announced a couple weeks ago. Pretty thrilling, and I wanted to, I'll speak for myself, I wanted to have you on because you and I had done a lot of theory crafting over the previous couple months, and the only person who confidently was predicting, you were predicting a lot of things, but the only person who had faith that we might receive something other than Johto or Unova was you, Kuro. You were saying we are going to go back to Kalos. It's not lost.
I was on Hopium first and foremost.
Yeah.
and it's because especially because of you guys, because you guys were always saying, Game Freak and Pokemon Company are always breaking patterns. So I always had this in the back of my mind. Wait a minute. Wouldn't be skipping Gen 2 and Gen 5 also be breaking yet another pattern?
Yes, sir.
And then I started thinking, it makes sense to skip 2 generations that feel complete in terms of story, being Johto and Unova, and go to Kalos. And we got a lot of hints, like for example, the initials of Area Zero, Roaring Moon's Pokédex entry, that northeast corner that we don't even know, and we believe it was Kitakami.
It's the most... That part of the map is the most glaring, hint. And beyond that, there are so many hints to Kalos, right? Lumi talked about those, those
gym
dragon
leaders.
Trainers. Yeah, the gym leaders. Also, there's literal costumes from the Gen 6 games coded into the game that you can get in Paldea. And we all thought, oh, this is just a cheeky reference. Why would that be the reference?
When I saw the gym leaders, the first is Bug, the last is Ice. Kalos? That's what I thought. And then
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, exactly. And then when I saw the DLC, here's your fake Johto and your pseudo Unova, and I'm like, these are not hints. They're fail safes. They're remake proofing, aren't they? And when the Snacks words parts had no Xerneas, Yveltal, and Zygarde, and I'm like,
that's another huge hint.
We should have known from that.
But we were too far gone. We were too far gone.
That's really the thing.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
We had talked about Kalos for a while, and I know Kuro, if you had been watching back then, we've been talking about Kalos being a possibility, and everyone thought it was a possibility.
Yeah.
Well, not everyone, but a lot of people thought it was a possibility before the DLC came out. And then we were like, nah, never mind.
It'll never happen.
It's not happening. Nothing Kalos is happening. We're just literally on the Hopium, as you said, and then they just did it. Really, they did the crazier break a pattern. They're like, you know what? We break patterns all the time.
Yes.
We're gonna break an even bigger one that you never.
Which
even
is
thought,
the remake cycle.
Deeper one.
Which is
a deeper one.
Is it? I think that's the most exciting thing, right? Because all of a sudden, this 3-year pattern or whatever, and maybe we even talk about this later in the show, but it looks like there's a new Pokemon company working with, there's a new company that has worked with Pokemon, that has moved inside the same building with Pokemon. I got some theories about that. Maybe we talk about that a little bit later.
Are you talking about Pokemon Works?
Yeah, Pokemon Works. Yeah, that just Ilka?
It's a little different. So what it is they established a new company, and it's moved into the same building that Ilka works in.
Okay.
So, there's theories, of course, as to what it is, but for the record, too, there is no proof. There's nothing saying that this is part of Ilka, or this owns Ilka, or this is working with Ilka. It's in the same building. Pokemon's in the same building.
So what you're saying
Legend
is they're
of Zelda.
making a remake for Heart Gold, Soul Silver? That's what you're saying?
Listen, it's called Pokemon Works. If I get the Unova remake, that's basically me just doing Poke jobs in Castilia, I'm sold.
Yeah.
It's Pokemon Works because they're finally going to make the things that Ilka makes
They're going to make it work. Yeah. So, I think what's most exciting for me is the fact that, okay, great. We can, one, as a content creator, it's fun now. It justifies wild theories, right? I think we can all appreciate that. All of a sudden, it's like, we can have a little bit more flexibility with what we want to predict, but also with what games we actually get, right? That's the most exciting thing.
They curveballed us because
Oh yeah.
they were showing Raikou in Pokemon Sleep, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Raikou finally gets love on his own,
And
then
the unknown,
the unknown was there, and then I realized, oh, it makes sense. They're using the letter Pokemon to hint at the letter titled games X and Y and ZA.
yeah.
I know the hints that we got were completely. We weren't looking at the right hints.
Yeah.
It's crazy because that's totally true. Is like the letters, and then also, they did the unknown. They did Raikou, Entei, and Suicune, and then they did Silver and Masters. They even showed like a part of Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and I'm like, it's gonna be Johto. It's gonna be Johto. It's like there's no way.
And even the trailer for the game.
The hint was that it mega evolved. Like his Tyranitar mega evolved. Like, you know what I mean? Like megas are back. Hello. Dude,
was I the only one? I don't think we ever had this discussion, but was I the only one when the guy's talking and he says, we have one last video to show you. Obviously I'm thinking, oh, this is their game reveal. But then it's just the unknown. It comes out and it says, so are you. And then the question mark's in there and it goes to black. Was I the only one who at first thought that was the final video?
I thought that was it.
What?
That's the big hint.
That was it.
And
I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
I'm still not convinced that says CU. It doesn't say CU.
It totally says CU.
It doesn't say it
at the beginning. They're on Scrambled and it says Pokemon Presents.
But there's no payoff for them to actually spell it correctly.
There is because
when
you show Pokemon Presents, the letters are scrambled. When they show the word Soyue or whatever that was, it's CU scrambled because the Zygarde cells are always watching, right? But if you read that backwards, it says the word Uaeus. That's Old Greek for bountiful. If you literally translate that word, like how Kalos meant beauty in Old Greek, if you literally translate the word bountiful, it means fruitful earth. Fruitful for the Paldea Academies and earth for Zygarde's ground type.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm lost on it. I guess if you're saying anyways, we're talking about
the first bit were scrambled too.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. So yeah,
it was definitely scrambled CU.
I'm sure you guys are right. I'm a little hung up. I'm sure you guys are right. But we're talking about a Pokemon Presents.
Dusty's writing copium. He's ready for Pokemon Legends. So
no, but it could be relevant. If it wasn't CU, it'd be like, okay, like the first thing I thought was that's the new name region of the old Kalos region. Yeah, it is really dumb that they left it unscrambled. Like they didn't re-scramble.
I don't understand the point of that.
Be CU again. Like
it's not like it said. It's not like it was Lumiose scrambled and then there's a question mark and then we get the trailer for a new game set in Lumio City. That would have been interesting.
Let's just face it. All the time in their presents, they're trying new things that just don't work. Like the unknown letter scrambles just confused us. It wasn't cute. We just got confused by it. And then there was the horrifying Pikachu animatronic from last year.
I'm still scarred by that.
Can't forget that. I still have nightmares.
So yeah, let's go back to Pokemon Legends ZA. Kuro, what are your biggest expectations for this game, right? Because for those who aren't familiar with your channel, with your Twitter account, you got big ideas and you bring receipts. You've got so much. You're like the master at finding like Easter eggs that feel random, but you tie them in so perfectly. Like I feel like you almost create your own Easter eggs based on your actual knowledge, right? When I talk to you, you bring like you said, everyone's talking about like CU, and you said, no, that's actually like an ancient word that means this, which relates to Zygarde. That's so cool. Is it? Yeah, anyways, so what are your biggest expectations with Pokemon Legends ZA?
Well, first and foremost, I think we need to talk about, the Pokédex, right?
Yeah.
Because the Legends Arceus Pokédex, it had 242 Pokemon, right? Mm-hmm. It was some numbers above the 210 of Platinum. So given how the Kalos Pokédex has a lot, and I mean a lot in the original Pokédex, they have like 457.
Yeah. There's three.
There's 3 Pokédexes. Yeah. So I would not be against the idea of this game having like maybe 484 That's like the double amount of Arceus, which is
Mm.
going to be interesting because like you have the double amount of Arceus Pokemon wise, and it's just in one city, so it's like nearing the 500. I want new Pokemon. I feel like
Yeah.
we by getting a new Kami with Enamorous, we either need a fifth Musketeer or a form for Victini.
Yeah,
I
well,
think it's time to.
Ooh, I like that.
We talked about with Jake a little bit on potentially a fifth form for the Tapus because you have the connection with the strange souvenir first popping
Mhm.
up in the Kalos region,
Yes.
and then like Xerneas, Yveltal, and Zygarde missing, and Scarlet and Violet, the Tapus are
Yes.
also missing.
yeah.
Though you could
I
make arguments that they're only missing from like a competitive standpoint because Tapu
I
Koko setting up electric terrain for Violet
mhm.
paradoxes would be a nightmare, but
That would be
I
cool.
would not I would not be against the idea of they're doing a curveball yet again, because in terms of stats and in terms of types, the Tapus are shared with the Ruinous Treasures. If it was up to me, the fifth member of the Tapu would be a fifth member of the Ruinous Treasure too. It would be
Mm.
Dark Fairy. It
connect
would
the
be like,
two.
it would connect the two
That would be
exactly.
really neat.
As
That'd be wild.
for Xerneas and Yveltal, because they are the primordial beings of life and death, I don't think they need megas. I think they need primals.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, they
Primals was
everyone
super
says megas,
underbaked.
but I'm like, it's too like I don't know
Megas
what the
feel
right word is, but
artificial
like
in a lot of ways.
small. It's small for them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it should be
Mhm.
there should be something epic that they get instead of just a mega. You know
Megas
what I
are
mean? 'Cause they're-
trivial, right? Megas make something more spiky and edgy, but Primal feels like a story beat, right? Primal gives context for what they used to be like back in the day, which is where we're kind of playing around with. Maybe I'm jumping ahead, but my biggest understanding or prediction for the X and Y legendaries is they're gonna have some sort of primal form, and that power is gonna be attempted to be harnessed by whoever's leading this redevelopment project, right? Trying to capture
Yes.
energy for the city. And then basically at the end of the game, these Pokemon are going to revert to their cocoon and their tree form, right? These are dormant forms. I'm talking about Xerneas and Yveltal. They're going to go into their dormant forms where 150 years later or whatever, that's where we find them in the story of X and Y. That's what I'm predicting.
Which kind of contradicts the main lore, because the main lore states that they reverted into cocoons 8 centuries
Okay.
prior to X and Y.
yeah, I was
But,
gonna ask about
That's
that.
good.
but here's the thing. It makes sense, but it doesn't at the same time, because according to the lore of X and Y, the ultimate weapon being launched 3 millennia ago, they use the lives of Pokemon to make the Megastones, etc., and Sycamore theorizes that the
Yeah.
Megastones are irradiated energy of Xerneas and Yveltal. He theorizes, therefore it's
Yeah.
not confirmed.
Yeah, that's really good.
But
Mhm.
it's stated that the legendaries were seen in those times, but it's by people. They don't even know if it was actually Xerneas and Yveltal, because if they are always resting every 8 centuries, and if the war was 3 millennia ago, it really doesn't align unless they were around and the war was the catalyst for them to be in a dormant state. I would not be against the idea that the A legendary was either born from the ultimate weapon,
Yeah.
or it was a fusion from Xerneas and Yveltal. They were like one Pokemon combined, like the original dragon,
Interesting.
and they split, because the firing of the ultimate weapon didn't split timelines,
Yeah.
but the way that it's launched, we know that AZ firing or not firing creates a temporal rift. So what happens if we had a legendary, maybe a fusion of those two, or maybe it was the squirrel that everyone is talking about from the Yggdrasil tree.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it would make sense because you get life and death and you have balance. You don't have a chaos Pokemon. A lot of people believe Ultra Necrozma was going to be the chaos Pokemon, and I was like, wait a minute. What's the one word with the letter A that relates to chaos? Anarchy.
Yeah. That's interesting.
That'd be wild if they made like if they put anarchy in the name somehow.
Yeah, I like what
Anarchiest. It's a like opposite
Anarchiest.
of Arceus.
Wow.
Anarchiest.
Oh my gosh.
that's true. Or yeah, well,
That
some people
actually fits.
have said
But-
Arceus could be the A legendary.
I
so-
don't think
Yeah.
so.
something
I
I'm
don't think so.
yeah,
I
something
do think it'll have direct ties to
yeah,
Legends Arceus though. Just like I think it will be like a sequel to it in the same
Mhm.
way, like a loose sequel, like
Yeah.
kind of like how Oris was to X and Y, right? Like we
Yes.
talked about this a little bit last week. It's like kind of a sequel, not really, but kind of.
yeah.
The Z is an actual 2.
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it could be something like that because the biggest thing I did, shameless plug, by the time this is out, it'll be out on my channel. But I did a full like hints, every hint and like Legends Arceus, Scarlet and Violet, all that
It's a
stuff
good video.
to a Kalos game. And there is in Legends Arceus one of the most interesting things that happened. I remember being so fascinated by this before. This was found the week Legends Arceus came out. They had the way like data for Mega Evolutions works is it's listed as like an alternate form. So like Sceptile is listed as Sceptile, and then Mega Sceptile is listed as an alternate form of Sceptile. Well, these were all stubbed in Sword and Shield, which obviously was our first game since Mega Evolution that did not have Mega Evolution in it. Well, then in Legends Arceus, they re-added it. And so to me, that points to them probably, while making the game, Legends Arceus, knowing that they're going to do something with Mega
Yeah.
Evolution for a
Yeah.
sequel.
That's funny. I was
I
gonna
love
post that today too, Lumi,
It-
because I
and
saw
it-
I saw Matt's tweet about it that you had.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah,
you
I
commented or
retweeted
reposted.
it again.
Yeah.
I retweeted
And then I was
it.
like, oh my gosh, I remember that, and they clearly knew. That's why
Mhm.
they added it in there. That's why I was gonna say yesterday, the last time that we recorded with Jake, that I was speculating that they have been planning, at least maybe
Mhm.
even developing Legends ZA, like while they were even doing Legends Arceus,
I mean,
like a little bit before.
That makes sense. They probably were like, okay, we need, if we're gonna make a Legends game, we probably like if they want to, I don't know, I would imagine any company, if they want to do anything, they must have like a long-term plan for it if it does
Mhm.
well. Like it's
they
it's a
Oh,
contingency.
absolutely.
It's
Like
if it does
Let's
well,
Go.
let's keep going.
Yeah, like Let's Go had some stuff where you easily could have made a Let's
Yeah.
Go Johto sequel
Yeah.
on it because it introduces Johto characters and kind of sets up a story.
Totally.
Mhm.
I think while they were developing Legends Arceus, they probably also had the creative team developing stories and whatever for probably this game, but maybe another game, and then they just didn't know
Yeah.
if they were going to go forward with it. So
Mhm.
there's definitely stuff. If we
I
find
don't know if you-
connections,
It's
it
a lot
could
like
be-
DLC. Like I'm sure while developing Scarlet and Violet, they're thinking, okay, these things that we're making, while we're making it, let's also think about where we can take this further. We practically know they did that with Scarlet and Violet because in the very first trailer that revealed Scarlet and Violet, you can see a picture of the layout of Blueberry Academy.
Yeah.
yeah, they had
Like,
those plans.
You know,
We know that they plan, at least story wise, they plan like ahead, way ahead. To go back to what you were saying, we don't know if this could be like a sequel instead, because it's a whole new series in Pokemon. So we
Yeah.
don't know if it's like normal Pokemon games where they just like completely cut them off and
Totally.
separate them. This could be
Mhm.
like, it could directly connect, or it could be
Right.
a little more connected, or it could be like a normal
it-
Pokemon game. Who
It
knows?
will depend if a Hisuian character shows up in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah,
Jake,
I mean, you do.
Because
if this-
if this
Go ahead.
game happens during the renovation of Paris
Mhm.
and given the Eiffel Tower, I was looking at the Haussmann renovation of Paris, so it lasted more than we actually think because it was halted, but then it continued until the 20th century. The middle point of the renovation was the creation of the Eiffel Tower in the 1889. So, but the Prism Tower is already there in the blueprint. I don't know if it's going to be in the city or if we are going to help build the Prism Tower. And maybe it's going to be like a beacon, like how we got the ultimate weapon in
yeah, that's
Geosenge, and we
kind of
get
what I'm thinking.
or we get the Sundial and Anastar. Maybe we get maybe the Lumiose Tower. It's meant to be like a fusion of both as a beacon for Central Kalos, because you have one for mountain, one for coastal. As for whatever the purpose of the tower is, that I don't know. And then I was seeing the time frame, and I was like, wait a minute. Kalos had a lot of Kantoisms to it during X and Y.
Yeah.
If Pokemon had an actual calendar, I would not be against the idea that this would happen in the year of 1896, which would be a century before Red, Green, and Blue.
Okay.
It's during the Belle Epoque of France, so I think that would be funny. And you did mention the Tapus, Lumi. I do think it's not a Tapu, but I always saw it as an honorary one for the Aether Foundation Island. Magirna. I think we're going to get your original color Magirna in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, that is definitely true.
Yeah.
Magirna always, that was like an old standing theory that Magirna had maybe connections with the Tapus. It's like this it's literally a fairy that can hide inside of a shell.
Robot.
Yeah, and one of the
yeah.
islands of Alola is an artificial island, so people kind of
Exactly.
speculate, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it would be, I mean, obviously I do theories on my channel, so I am always looking for like the mysteries solving that or giving us more to that.
Yes.
So like, it's no secret. One thing I really want answered is the Lumiose Ghost Girl thing in Lumiose. But and if this is set in the past, we could meet her while she's alive.
Tell me this, Lumi, because I hear about that all the time, but I always just see it as a meme. Is there actually story implications, or is it just because I could see them definitely giving us another like Easter egg or another like reference to it?
It was more than a meme, I think, because you have everybody knows about the just Lumiose Ghost Girl. You walk up to that elevator, the lights flicker, and this girl comes out of the elevator behind you. She's floating. She's not walking. She's floating, and she floats around you, says, "No, you're not the one," and then keeps going.
So who's the one?
Well, and the interesting thing about it too is maybe these are unrelated. We don't know that they're related, but there's a girl, same design, like it's the Hex Maniac girl, in the Hotel Richest Me, I think is how it's pronounced. And if you go up there, she's kind of standing in the corner of the room, and if you talk to her, she says, "Shh, I'm trying to hear the elevator coming." And then there's also a sign in the train station that connects to Kalud City. If you go behind like the board that has the train times, if you click on it, it says there's something scratched into the sign that says, "I'm going to the get help, go to the usual place." And that's
so what's
literally
the
all we
place?
have. Right.
Yeah.
She does, oddly enough, there is also a Hex Maniac in Mount Pyre and Oris who also says, "You're not the one."
Okay.
Yeah. Even Master ZX, the official Twitter account, they do state that the Ghost Girl is one of their NPCs. Her name is Elena, the Hex Maniac. I don't know if they're trying to curveball us with that, or if it's actual just an NPC that's just playing jokes. I don't know if it's a post on a Twitter account. It could be just an employee like not knowing more. So there's
just messing around.
Yeah,
they're just messing around. One thing I would like to see, and I know this is a very stretch. Break evolution, right? Because we get those in the trading cards. It's basically Pokemon glowing gold. And we got that with the totems being frenzied in Legends Arceus.
Yeah.
So
kind of the same.
Yeah, it's very similar. So I was thinking because the ability of Zygarde it's called Aura Break. Then again, we don't know if abilities are going to be in the game. I think that if we got Megas in the wild, and those would be like the totem noble whatever equivalent, it wouldn't make sense for Zygarde to break the stones and unleashing their potential with Aura Break, because if the stones are with the energy of Xerneas and Yveltal, if you break that energy, it's like breaking a stone and you unlock them onto Mega Evolve, but it would not be controlled. It would be in a frenzy, and that explains why the Rotom Dex has those dark entries, because the Rotom Dex was built by Clement. So maybe a Clement ancestor, or maybe someone from Alola saw how the Megas are acting in Kalos, and they were like, "Oh, they're always like this," and they didn't got all of the information.
I think that would be a really fun mechanic. I think Aura Break, you're kind of like explaining a reason why it could happen, but I would love to see some sort of like lesser version of a Mega, maybe still fueled by Infinity Energy, whatever. It's like tied into the same origin. But I love the idea of. I think that could fit right.
We get that in the Magirna movie. In the Magirna movie, they use like a mega wave. It's to create shadow megas, and we have that in
Interesting.
Pokemon Go now. Nonetheless,
And that's like Shadow Pokemon, right? We have Shadow
Yeah.
Pokemon, and Megas have been closely tied together. Shout out Birdkeeper Toby. I think, I think rather than having, because again, like if this is a Legends title, there's gonna need to be like kind of analogs, right? Maybe we don't have the agile and the strong styles, but maybe we have two different versions or a version of that's like Mega or Aura, right? Maybe you use whatever, and it can be called whatever it needs to be called.
I would
But
not.
it has a
I would
similar
not.
in-game battle effect.
I would not be surprised in the slightest if the styles are replaced with Battle Bond, and that
Yeah.
way, every time you defeat a Pokemon, you would get a boost in attack, special attack, and speed because that's how the ability was now retooled as. So instead of having abilities,
Yeah.
you would have Battle Bond being the game mechanic. It's kind of like Moxie, but for two
Yeah.
other stats.
So would they have to? Because the only thing I would my first thought is, well, does the Pokemon that undergoes this Battle Bond like functionality, does it need to have a visual change like Ash Greninja? I would think
Yes.
probably not.
Like, yes and no, because Greninja is the only example, and the ability's name in Japanese is called Bond Transformation.
Exactly.
So,
Okay, that's what it is. Yeah.
yeah.
It doesn't need to have, or
As-
maybe
as
the
for the-
Pokemon gets like a slight. I mean, what would
Uh,
you even do if there's character customization? I don't know.
Yeah, like, as for Ash Greninja, I'm fully prepared to be just a gift, or maybe
Yeah.
it's like a aesthetic encounter like Blood Moon or Soluna
Yeah,
in some ways.
that'd be cool.
Going back to that A legendary, if it's the squirrel, whatever, if it's like a fusion of Xerneas and Yveltal, there is a creature, an Atlantean creature no less. So going back to the code name of Scarlet and Violet, right?
love
It's
this.
called a Periton. It's a winged stack. Like, I kid you not, there is like an actual hybrid creature that's half deer, half eagle.
I love it.
It's called
That's cool.
it's
Just give it some
and
scales, and it's a dragon.
Yeah, and the thing is that the word periton comes from peritos, that's Macedonian, Old Greek, right? For moon. So this creature will be the moon dial.
Wow, that is so true. The Moondial's right there in Kalos, and it was never explained. Yeah, I'm just looking at all these lists of like legendary Pokemon. You said something earlier about like the Mega timeline and the split there. You were saying that earlier in the show, and I had a big idea, and I really can't think of what that would be. But if we're looking at other Pokemon that could potentially get maybe new additional forms or new members to their grouping. What's up?
I feel like Zygarde put himself in a good position to where he can have more forms.
Yeah,
And given
I'm
given
confident
how
Zygarde will get something.
I feel like because
I don't know.
Arceus did.
Yeah, but
Arceus did
one
that's
isn't
true.
a pattern.
I know,
Oh,
but
I
he
agree,
has so
I
many
agree.
forms already.
But
I just,
yeah, I'm just
Sure, they
saying,
would wanna highlight the
he
forms.
has gotten new forms in an additional game.
So
I feel like Xerneas and Yveltal is what they'll focus on.
Yeah, not only that, but he's perfect Zygarde. Like
Yeah.
the final form is
He has a
already
No,
complete-
but that's what I'm saying. Like, the forms don't need to amplify that. It could just be like intermediate.
Or a
Because,
corruption,
like,
right?
Like,
what
for
if
example,
it's not perfect Zygarde? What if it's like a corrupted form?
I
That's
would
possible.
I would say other percentages, because if we got 5, 25,
I think that would be
75,
interesting. Make one of them a squirrel.
the squirrel will be the A legendary. These
Yeah.
other forms, I think it will be Raven, a goat, and the Pegasus, because of Odin, Thor, and Valkyrie. So
Yeah,
I think-
that I was thinking that too. Like they could make them off of Norse mythology, like continue that, but also make them our ride Pokemon. You know what I mean? It would make
dude,
sense.
that is so cool.
It would make sense if like Zygarde is kind of with us the whole time, like a whole Miraidon, Koraidon thing. People
And
have
that
said
would
this,
make sense. You,
know?
could just like you hit a button and you swap from your You swap from Weirder into your Braviary, right? You click the button and you go from the dog form to like an eagle form of
plot
Zygarde.
twist.
It's just like
we are not going to get a Legends trio. Like, the Zygarde core is going to be our starter.
yeah, that would be. That's the thing though, is like it sounds kind of cool, but at the same time, I'm like, I just want other Pokemon, like different Pokemon, to do it instead.
Yeah,
of...
because
And I do think
like,
Zygarde makes more sense to be like the antagonist to the story, right?
think about this in a moment. If the game, with the game being only in Lumiose, Zygarde, if all of your cells are in one city, you're not prevailing the ecosystem correctly, my dudes.
Yeah,
And
yeah, right,
and I'm like, am I going to have to find all of the Megastones in the sewers?
right. They're just everywhere in the city.
Or you need to craft them, like you need
What?
to gather
No,
like
what it
like
could
imagine-
be is you fight Zygarde in multiple forms, and when you defeat it, right? Like when you're fighting the frenzied Pokemon, but when you defeat it, you get maybe 10 cells, and now you have the ability to maybe you have also maybe you start the game with a Zygarde cell or a core, I think it's called, because there can be
Core.
multiple cores. So there's one wild core that is your antagonist. You have one core, and then as you defeat it in its frenzied form or whatever the the equivalent of that is, then you get those 10 cells, and you do that throughout the game until all of a sudden it's like Zygarde versus Zygarde. Can that happen in lore? I feel like that can.
It can definitely happen because there's two, because there's multiple.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
feel like if we get like more forms of Zygarde, then it would have to be related to, because we wouldn't do the perfect one, right? It would have to be related to something like that, like the ride form. So the only reason that we would ever want like a, what is it, 25%? I don't know the percents, but the 25% like goat version of Zygarde is so that we could ride it. Like that's its utility. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And then or it's like one of the frenzied bosses. Like, 'cause so
Sure.
we're assuming there's going to be 5 bosses. So because of the 5 areas in Lumiose, I think that's where the bosses are going to be.
Yeah.
Anyway, but so
either it could be wild bosses, but I would not be against the idea of, there will be like not an evil team, but something like Team Star, because there were also 5 and they also had like their bases. Maybe it could be because we got the Starmobiles, right, with the rev rooms.
yeah.
It could be something around those lines.
That's true. That did kind of function like the frenzied as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean it's all kind of the same thing because it has to be, like it's a boss
Yeah,
kind of
that's
battle.
true.
I like the idea of there being like facilities or bases at those.
Or maybe, and this is because of the anime. The anime, they gave Zygarde 2 cores. Each one could go until 50%. In the games, it's 5 cores. Everyone can go until 10, and then you have the one resolution cave. So you basically get 5 dogs and 1 serpent, and then you make the Megazord. What if the Quasar team? Because we got the Quasar logo, right?
Mhm.
And even Toby asked this us on Twitter, like, why is the redevelopment of the city being coded as confidential, right? So what if this Quasar that could precede Team Flare, what if they want to make their own synthetic version of Zygarde, like how Lysander did in the anime with the Megalith? Like, so we would still have the organic Zygarde that goes into the forms that we know, but this synthetic version that could be the nobles, it goes with percentages they're not optimal. It's like Eternamax Eternatus, but it's 5 to 6 times. So the stats would be wild. It's like the Starmobile. You cannot catch Rev of Room while on a Starmobile.
Sure, yeah.
Right.
So imagine if this Quasar Corporation or whatever it's called, they want to make a synthetic Zygarde, and they use
That's
all of
so
these.
cool. I could see it.
They could make, for example, 5, 20, 33,
Yeah.
66, 75.
And
like
they're
all of
different
these-
as a really obvious way to demonstrate to the player that these are different. They're inorganic, right? These are separate from your pure forms, right?
Yeah. I do wonder, I think that raises an interesting question of, I wonder how much the anime might have crossover with this, because the thing with the anime is really interesting, because that arc with Zygarde was called the XYZ arc, and it even like got a stylized Z for the logo. It obviously it had Ash Greninja, it featured Zygarde. The final battle took place in Lumio City. Like you said, Kuro, it's got, the synthetic Zygarde stuff going on. It also had Alon's quest, like I could see that maybe being similar to ours, where
Because Steven, if we get the shiny Beldam in Aurus, and if you play the event with Xenia in Master ZX, Steven mentions a trainer with a black Charizard. He doesn't mention Halan by name, but we know it's Halan. If this game is in the future, it would be very funny if we see, Halan being canonized in the game lore.
Sure,
If it's
yeah.
in the past, dude, imagine if Halan's ancestor is the Volo level character.
That'd be
Yeah,
neat. But like, I could see us kind of taking on his role in the XYZ anime, because in that he was kind of tasked with, he would battle Mega Evolutions, and by doing that he would collect Infinity Energy, and he didn't, wasn't fully aware of it, but it was like all to feed Flair's evil plans, So like, maybe it's a similar thing. This Quasar company, that's why it's so confidential. Is they're kind of tasking us with, oh, we need this energy to rebuild the city, but it's actually to build on a synthetic Zygarde.
We need power to light up the prism tower, and then you realize, oh no, we are lighting up another ultimate weapon, aren't we?
Well, and that was the thing too, was Prism Tower was also really relevant in the XYZ anime's final battle too. Like that, there was like a whole thing with Clement and Zero Sick, because Zero Sick, like, if I'm not mistaken, like kind of tricked him into something with Lumious Tower, like he needed it.
While Ash and Halan were in the league finals, Zero Sick took over the tower.
Right.
And then, poor Clambot.
Yeah. Rip.
Yeah. I definitely think that I've said it before, I think, but I think that whole anime storyline there's going to be some similarities here, unless they decide to just go away from it. I do think that they adapted whatever they had for Pokemon Z, because we know that Pokemon Z existed.
Or X2, Y2 existed as well.
Yeah, right. So I think that probably had something to do with it, because they couldn't do it in the game, so they're like, you know what, let's take some of this and put it in the anime. So I think that if they revisit that, it could be in this.
I don't want for the game to be a one-to-one copy of the anime plot.
Oh,
No, I don't think it would be. No.
Nah, because they don't want you to be able to. I'm sure they know people will catch on to, like, oh, it's Pokemon Legends ZA. Let me watch Pokemon XYZ, because it'll probably be similar.
Yeah.
So I just think that, some of the very basic stuff could have, like Soul said, been taken from these X2, Y2 games that were scrapped. And so you have to wonder what from these scrapped games might make an appearance here.
Yeah. So I
do recall in the anime, Sawyer had 3 original badges. Granted, original badges are always something in the anime.
Right.
But then I got me thinking, way back then, what if these badges were meant to be badges for Shauna, Tierno, and Trevor if they were to be gym leaders in the sequels? What if that was like their intent? Because when I saw Nimona,
that would make sense
Penny,
coming off of Black 2, White 2. Yeah, because X and Y were meant to be sequels. That honestly, that is a cool timeline to think about.
When I saw the rivals for Scarlet and Violet, like Arven, Penny, Nimona, oh, it's the XY trio upgraded. And then I see Kieran and Carmine being assistants for Briar. Oh, this is Sina and Dexio. Upgraded. Like, the hints are always there, man, if you really think about it.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever articulated this on the show, but I think what's really special about the Legends series, like, if I'm trying to, like, kind of think about where Game Freak's mind is, it's the fact that every new main series Pokemon game kind of functions like a sequel. Not a sequel, but it's a progression of the timeline and the current timeline. Obviously, so like if the main series is always moving forward in time, I think the Legends series allows them to go back and recontextualize stuff, which I think is really cool. It's smart, and I don't know. It just makes sense for like where they would take kind of a new spin-off core series game. So
yeah,
for sure.
So if we there's so many things I want to talk about with Yukuro. I want to talk about, there's a lot of Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire plot points that I think not a lot of people are highlighting that could tie into this story.
Before that, I just want to point something out, because there is a lot of anachronisms with this. It's in the past, it's in the future.
Yes.
Like, I don't know that, if what time frame it could be. It could just be, oh, it's the Bella Poke. from Paris, or
Sure.
maybe it's actually in the future and they're just using that that time from our world to, give credence to whatever is in the story. But there is something that I was thinking about this, and it's Rainbow Rocket.
Yes.
In
Yes.
Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, we see that all of the villains won in a timeline. So I was thinking about this.
Wow. Yeah. Here we go.
Lysander,
Strap in.
Lysander was teleported by Giovanni into the rocket castle after firing the weapon, but he wasn't hit by it. So, what if Legend ZA, it's in a timeline where Lysander won, and it's eons in the future. Everyone is in Lumiose because all of Kalos is contaminated,
Mhm.
or maybe it's in present day, and it looks futuristic, or maybe it's in eons in the future, but it still looks like our time because progression was halted. So it's like maybe it's like 8 centuries in the future, but technologically speaking, they didn't advance, right? Because
It's like
it's like
Fallout.
yeah, it's like Fallout, like it's like the Void Century from One Piece in some
that is
aspects
really
too.
cool.
And
I
it could happen. It could happen because when Arceus was released and we saw Hisui and we saw Ingo and all of that, and I'm like, what if Hisui? This was me back then, like 2 years ago. What if Hisui is not a prequel to Sinnoh? Because geographically it looks different. When I was playing Legends Arceus, I go south to where the Pal Park is, and that's where Cleavor is because of Ramana's Island, right? I go south and I listen to Eterna Forest, and I'm like, why am I listening to Eterna Forest music when I'm going south instead of north?
Yeah, I think
So in the-
something's. I think it's. Jake said this actually really clearly on our last episode, but I think it probably is important for us to maybe consider the fact that all of these games. I mean, it's not even a consideration. It's pretty canon that like every single Pokemon game is a slightly different timeline, a different dimension.
Yes. And to me,
right.
I believed, and I still believe, just because we see Perrin and Blood Moon or Soluna, that doesn't really mean anything. I still believe that the Legends Arceus title, it's set in a pocket dimension.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
maybe this Legend
a
ZA,
paradox dimension.
Exactly. So
Mhm.
this Legend ZA, it doesn't need to be the past or future version
Yeah.
of our Kalos. It can be a Kalos that we never access it
Yeah.
yet.
But
That's what I
aesthetically,
was.
it
I was
feels
thinking
like
that
it's in the
earlier
past.
when we were talking about Xerneas and Yveltal not being like awakened at that
Yeah.
time. That's like the best explanation to me is just that this is a different universe and they're awake at this time instead.
Not to mention that if we go to Kalos landmarks, there are some mons that are there then they really shouldn't. Like for example, in Glittering Cave, you find Lunatone. Lunatone are not meant to be discovered until 50 years prior X and Y.
Hmm.
Even though you see Solrock and Lunatone in the AZ cutscene, but that's an artist rendition.
Yeah.
Like for example, they even show Granbull and Rhydon petrified, and we never got a Mega for either. We see for Abomasnow, but that's for Frost Cavern purposes.
Sure. Okay.
And,
Right.
These are
I mean,
deep
they're-
cuts.
They're always retconning stuff like that too. Like they
Yes.
stated that Fairy is like a newly discovered type in X and Y, but in Legends Arceus, there's
It
fairy
exists.
types. You can
So
catch a
true.
Sylveon and all. So it's you know.
I really think that the answer to all of those all the time is the timelines thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like no matter what, whenever they retcon something like practically that they have to, they answer it with it's just because it was
Timelines.
in a different timeline.
Yeah.
It was in a different timeline. So I think
Right.
anything like that, like this, I don't even think that they'll touch the Xerneas and Yveltal like we're sleeping. They'll just be like, it was in a different timeline, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right?
Because
There's a
here's the thing,
timeline.
because here's the thing, we have some megas to consider, right?
Yeah, that too.
Mewtwo,
Yeah,
Latias,
Mewtwo was the biggest
Rayquaza,
one.
Aerodactyl. Is Hoopa going to be the culprit for all of this if it happens?
I think Hoopa
Also-
makes the most sense.
also-
That's what they did in the Hoenn remakes.
Yes, if they want to make sense of it, yes. But also, like thinking about, like a lot of people have been like, Pokemon from future generations can't get megas because they didn't have them in X and Y, and it's like it's just a different timeline. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
in this timeline, these Pokemon do have megas, and that they didn't have them.
Well, and
before.
even
like,
with
like
that,
the Kalos mega.
I mean, you can explain that even further with just simply like my wife and I were talking about this, where she was like, "Okay, but if they give like a Mega Evolution to Go-Go, how do you explain that?" And I'm like, "You just didn't find the Mega Stone.
Yeah,
That's
literally
it.
that.
You know, it's
That's
just
simple.
like, how come Applin didn't evolve into Diplin in Sword and Shield? Well, because you didn't find a syrupy apple.
Yeah, I get
back in
that
the day, they
totally.
used to care about that a lot. That's why they would always introduce more and more like complex and convoluted evolution methods, right? It's the reason why
Do you-
Leafeon and Glaceon didn't evolve with stones. And then they were like, you know what? Well,
And now
okay,
they
let's just make
evolve.
the stones. Well, let's just fix it. Let's fix this
Like for
continuity.
I know this because one of my friends, when it was during the time of art called Soul Silver, right?
Yeah.
So he had a magneton, and he wanted to have a magnezone, but there was no electric, you know, electric
There was no
magnetic
Mount
wave field.
Coronet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Whatever
yeah,
that thing is.
there was no
Yeah.
Mount Coronet, so he had to transfer magneton to platinum to go to Mount Coronet. And I'm like, while you're there, transfer the whole team, grind them in the Elite Four. That way you don't need to worry about the level curve of Johto. So
Yeah.
he was using Sinnoh as prep work for Lance in a way. I find it funny.
That is
Do
funny.
you do you guys think that we're going to get something for Volcanion this time around?
Yeah, I think
Ooh,
my,
I like that
I don't
question.
have any like fully baked ideas, but I do think right Volcanion was supposed to be in those, what are they called, the Badlands of Kalos, in that
Lumiose
like desert
Badlands.
area, which also is an access point to the power plant, which is underground, which is also on the outskirts of Lumiose City. And I think it would be a perfect opportunity. That's like one of the most
I
iconic
feel- I-
memes of like cut
I
content
feel-
for X and Y.
I feel like the power plant is going to be built. We are going to help build the power plant.
Okay.
And I was watching other time frames of Kalos. Like for example, in the top of Lumiose we have Laver City. Laver City, it's 15 centuries old, so Laver City should be established by this point. If the game is only just in Lumiose City, because it was Nintendo of America who said this, it wasn't the Pokemon Company. But if the main part of the game is just in one city, I feel like other points of Kalos will be accessed to, but they will be very small, like the Ultra Worlds and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon.
Yeah, I'm struggling with that because I want to take them for face value, right? If they came out directly and said it's only going to take place in Lumiose City, I could see some twists where, okay, you can also access underneath Lumiose City, right? But it's still Lumiose City. I could see it where they're like, you have access to sky battles. Maybe you can go
Yeah,
above
because
Lumiose City.
because the dash A of Z dash A could be Z axis, right?
Sure,
the axis
yeah.
of depth,
Yeah.
or 3-dimensional. Yeah.
I don't think. Listen, they could do some shenanigans. I think Hoopa is a great way to do, kind of have a loophole where the main story and takes place in Lumiose City, but Hoopa allows for a couple warp panels to access like one-off locations. That makes sense, right? And the only reason why I'm holding up a little bit of hope for that is because I really am just interested in how they're going to distribute Pokemon encounters, right? If you have all these natural Pokemon that would normally be found in grass or water or whatever, there is water in the city. There's likely to be some patches of grass in the city, but if there's,
I don't.
you know what I'm
I
saying?
don't
Like,
think-
where are those going to show
Yeah.
up? What are the biomes that natural habitats going to look
I
like?
I don't think we are going to get regional variants, because if it's only in one city, what's the point of having regional variants? Like, you cannot have all regional variants in one city.
No, that's
I
not
actually
true.
really like the whole like.
I like that.
There's like a fan theories or whatever. I gotta post this eventually, but like
I'm gonna
that there'll
post it
be
right
like
now.
Lumiose forms, like Lumiose City forms.
They'll just be
I have
collision
such
forms.
issue with that.
I love
if
it.
there are Lumiose forms, then we need to retcon every single past thing.
Yeah.
Galarian Ponyta is not a Galarian Ponyta. It's a Glimwoodian Ponyta. Slowpoke is not a
but this-
Galarian Slowpoke.
Well, that's the
it's
thing.
a
It's
Volmorian
like what,
I
Kuro,
think that's
it's
the
like what
thing.
Kuro said, man. It's set in the future. Everything around Lumiose City is completely nuclear, and so they have to live just in Lumiose
Yeah,
City.
they're all
and that's
poison
it.
type.
Right,
So
but
they're
it's
all
still the
Lumiose
Kalos
forms.
region,
Yeah,
so it would be
they're just
Kalosian.
Game Freak is going to call, if we get regional forms, they're just going to be called collision forms. Point blank, that's it.
Or whatever.
I don't
For the
know.
record,
I
we
don't
don't know that this is Kalos. Like, we know that
Sure,
it is
yeah,
Kalos. We
that's
don't know
right.
that it's called Kalos.
That's
so-
right. It could be like the Hisuian forms.
What
I-
if Kalos
right.
at this point is just the city? So
Maybe.
You know, Like this is just the Kalos and the
Yeah.
surrounding areas
So,
Yeah.
of.
so this is our paradox Unova, because Unova is
Well,
just
yeah.
New York City.
Well, so
Yeah.
we kind of touched on it earlier. I think
Honestly, it could be. We could get if we have time travel, we could get something like Chrono Trigger, right?
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there is a possibility that again there's some time shenanigans, right? Where it all takes place in Lumio City, but you know, the whole point of Legends Arceus was that we fluctuate throughout time. So maybe there is a thing where it's like we go back in the past to change something that changes it in the future. Or
Dude, I have the craziest idea. So if they use the same engine, because it's still in the same console, right? And the whole point of Z to A, it means from ending to beginning.
Yes.
Because it means, reset and restart,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Here we go.
Let's say that this Legend ZA, it's the Majora's Mask to
I knew
Arceus'
that's what I was-
Ocarina
yeah.
of Time.
Yeah.
I knew that's what you're gonna say. The Majora's Mask. We keep doing
Game
it over
Freak
and
has
over.
shown that they love to kind of use Zelda as an inspiration. I think like aesthetically, like a new adventure, right? Breath of the Wild fits Pokemon so well, and that's what Legends Arceus was kind of like a response to. So if there was some sort of response to Tears of the Kingdom, you have one location, but there's a little bit of a twist where there's other access points within the same parameters of the region, which is just Lumio City.
Given how they explored the underground in several fashions, because we got the Dynamax raids,
Yeah.
we got the Sinnoh hideaways, the Blueberry Terrarium, and even Area Zero. Do you guys think that, besides the catacombs, because that's kind of obvious, right?
Yeah.
Given that all of this Hollow Heart theory, it was inspired by Jules Verne, who's a French person, and it was around this time. If this game is set around the time of Arceus, or maybe some years after, is there a possibility of us seeing Heat, like a very old Heat?
Oh, dude,
in
that
this
would
game?
be insane. I have not thought
Would be
about
really
that,
cool.
but that would be awesome. I would
Yeah.
love that. That would be the best case scenario, I think. I hope that they connect this to Gen 9.
Yeah,
stuff.
and introduce
Really
like I guess it wouldn't be Area Zero, but what if there's another access point? There's a tunnel from Area Zero that is in the underground of Kalos, and then there's
this
new Paradox Pokemon. I don't know how that works, but
You know what? This is on the subject of like talking about how things are kind of connected in a to the anime potentially. When it was between the 7th and 8th gyms, I believe, in the anime, they fell into this tunnel, and it ended up being this tunnel that like connects to Lumiose underground, because it was where Clement first met his Bunnelby.
yeah,
And that is kind of interesting, because that's like the area of Terminus Cave. So what if that's how we access Zygarde? It's like subways or some kind of tunnels under Lumio City directly connect to Terminus.
The train stations of Paris was built around this time. I'm not saying we're going to meet Emmett. It would be weird. Like, I know that everyone wants to meet Emmett, and I'm like, it would be too convenient for Emmett to show up after Ringo. I think we're going to see another Frontier
Faller.
facility Faller. I'm expecting The Rock, the butler, and he will not remember Caitlyn whatsoever.
Oh, did you guys
Honestly, who's to say that, like, if it's set around the same time as Hisui, who's to say Ingo doesn't, like, move here and basically, like, he himself builds up, like, the train for Kalos, which would be kind of a cool added history, because, like,
he
then
knows
when you
about
play
it.
X and Y,
I was
trains were
thinking
built
the
by Ingo.
opposite.
No,
Actually, Lumi, that
you know
Emmett
what's
would
funny?
be there.
Yeah, that's what Kuro's just saying.
And you know what's funny, Lumi? It's because Ingo's counterpart in that game, it's Melly, and Melly's character is hated by a lot of people. I would laugh. I would laugh if Melly was in this game.
Oh my gosh. Melly's gonna come here and build the Melly's the main character. You play as Melly. So on the subject, this is like 99% nothing, but I think this is a funny coincidence. We were talking about how we've talked about this a couple times, how Hoopa could be like the equivalent to distortion riffs in this game, right?
Yeah.
So I I just realized I have a Kalos poster, and it's of Lumio City, and it's got a silhouette of Hoopa on it, and that's like official
Whoa.
Pokemon merch.
That's official?
So, yeah, it was part of their Pokemon Destinations
Dude,
lineup,
what?
which is kind of neat.
That's
I mean, I wouldn't look
insane.
into it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's probably nothing because this was ages old, and
Yeah,
you know,
that's
it's
crazy.
just it's
I mean, I
just
think it
a
makes
cute little
sense.
throw it on there, but it's just kind of funny. I
I
thought.
think it makes
Even-
sense.
But
Even with
it's right there for anyone who can't. Let's see.
even with the presents itself, because the present starts with Terra raids of Scarlet and Violet, and we see the return of Dragon Terra Charizard,
Yeah.
and they show us Ground Venusaur and Steel Blastoise. And in the back of my mind, I was like, what if these
Ground
are the
Venusaur?
Mega X? Yeah, we see a ground. Yeah, for the presents, when the present started, we get the return of Dragon Terra Charizard for the Scarlet and Violet raids.
I mean,
and
that
we
does
get
seem
the-
kind of random.
Yeah, but what if they do new megas for Venusaur and Blastoise, and it's like
Yeah.
ground and steel,
I
They're
hope-
almost like
something around those
artificial.
lines.
I hope not. I'm okay without any more Kanto
They-
Megas.
they-
Nah, I would
they-
unironically want a Mega Charizard Z. Get out of here.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
No,
I'm
you-
more
you-
okay
you-
with
you-
that than
you-
Blastoise and Venusaur.
Wow.
You know what would be very funny if they utilize the models for Gigantamax, they downscale them, they
Sure.
repurpose that for megas, so
Yeah, I like that idea.
the Gmax Blastoise becomes Mega Blastoise X, that's Water Steel, and the Gmax Charizard just becomes Charizard Z. It's pure fire. It doesn't fly. It's just pure fire.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been playing around with that idea as well. I love if that were to happen actually, just because then Gigantamax would be like relevant again in some way, like their designs at least, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
I mean, we might see. It'd be cool even if we just got like one Mega that referenced a Gmax form in the same way that like Gengar's Gmax referenced his Mega form. I would really like that. Like we get a Mega Orbeetle and it looks kind of similar to
Yeah.
Gmax Orbeetle.
Yeah.
I do want to just kind of maybe harp on this a little bit more because the more I think about it, I'm like, why would Paradox Pokemon not return? Like new Paradox, why would they not continue that story? Because if you say it's like just specific to Paldea, I mean, I think it's specific to, I think it's specific to like the generation, right?
They return.
I've go for it.
They return as megas. Great Tusk is Megadon
Oh
Phoenix.
no, I don't think they would do
Iron
that. No,
Yeah.
that's too wild for them because they just like released them.
Yeah,
so I don't think
that would be
happen.
confusing.
But I
But they
do
could
think
maybe they're hints to new Mega forms.
it's a big question of like what are we actually going to get in this game, because like we know we're going to get megas, right?
Yeah.
At least we think but we're going to get new megas. So that seems like what the focus might be, but we're like, are we going to actually get regional forms as well?
Yeah.
Or like maybe they don't do regional forms and then they do paradoxes. I think that there's space for two things. Personally, that's what I think. I don't think that they go overboard with it. Like, I don't think they're going to do regional forms and megas and paradoxes and like.
Yeah, what did we get in Legends?
evolutions,
We got
yeah.
regional
Yeah.
forms and we got legendaries.
Well, we
And
got
evolutions.
we got a
And
bunch of stuff
evolutions.
actually, but it's weird because we got the Basculin form, which is just a form. We got
Right.
Yeah.
proper evolutions, which were like cross-gen evolutions,
Yeah.
not. And then we got regional forms, and we kind of got the nobles, alpha, whatever.
I feel
but
like
Right.
We got the
We also
origin
got
forms,
the
too.
origin forms,
Yeah.
and we got not only did we get a new Pokemon like on its own in Enamorus, but also it got an alternate form too.
yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like those Pokemon, they were not driven or inspired by like an agenda that Game Freak had or something, right? They weren't like, well, we got to do 5 new Pokemon. I feel like the Legend, it's not like a DLC or something random, right? Like Archaludon could appear in any game, and it happened to appear in the Blueberry Academy, right? But I feel like all the Pokemon in Legends Arceus were just so specific to that game. I guess you could probably make an argument against Enamorus.
Yeah, I mean, and also things like Kitakami kind of confirming that Basculin White Stripe lives in other places because it lives naturally in Kitakami.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I-
let's I don't know. So that's something that I think is exciting to me. I think Paradox Pokemon. I'm not banking on it,
I
but
would
I
be
do
so
think
down though. I'd be so down if they would do megas and then new paradoxes, and
Yeah.
there just wouldn't be
just a
regional
couple,
forms.
just a couple Paradox.
See,
The
I
problem-
wouldn't like that. I'm not a big paradox person.
I
The
have
problem
I
is-
have
it'd
a
be cool.
question.
Go for it.
So here's the thing, because this was something that I was thinking about. We got the Legend starters in Arceus. It was a mix, but I feel like it was only a mix because we got the BDSP game and we got the Sinnoh starters for that. It would be weird to have Sinnoh starters twice in a row, right?
Yeah.
So if we get the Kalos starters as the standard, I would not be against it. But I feel like because if they get megas, there will be still something new about them, right? Instead of having regional forms.
hmm
How would you guys feel if we got a regional set, like a legend set, like a mixed set? If we got the mixed set of legend starters, instead of getting regional forms, what if they get branch evolutions? Or
I would
what?
love that.
Or what if the starters
I'm fine
are
with that.
or
I'll-
what if the starters are regional fakes of other starters?
I
and
think
you
that
get
that's more likely.
I think the regional fakes are
seeing
weird.
regional fakes is no, but dude, I think seeing regional fakes is way more likely than a lot of other options because
know.
it just blows my mind why they would put only 4 in Scarlet and Violet and then like
Was it
never
4? It was
4
only
of them.
3, I think.
I think regional form.
Poltergeist, Wugtrio, Toadscruel.
Oh, I forgot about that. I forgot about Poltergeist. You're right. Like, why would they add them in there just for that and then never revisit them again, or just save them for Gen 10? Like, are we really going to go back to it in Gen 10? I don't know. It just
Yeah.
feels like
I
Pokemon
think we could get
Legends
more of them.
Arceus was regional forms, and now it's like, okay, maybe we can just do a bunch
you know
more of
you know,
them.
you know what this
Mhm.
means? The grass starter is going to be Bulbasaur, Grass Ghost.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be a huge win. I don't know, for whatever
That'd be like,
reason.
they watch our podcast.
I feel like the point of the starter Pokemon, I don't know, starters are really personal and they function off of nostalgia, right? And it's a way for them to it's a way for
true.
Game Freak to like, by giving us a new set of them, it's a way for them to like a clean, simple way to almost like reuse them and then give them new life. I feel like a split evolution could make sense, but then again, you're not getting, the story isn't, oh, Quilava got a new evolution, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
I feel-
that's not as exciting as being like, yo,
feel you.
Typhlosion has a new form, right? That's
I would
exciting. The regional
I'd
fakes.
prefer evolutions though, but people wouldn't. Like the people,
Yeah.
you're so right, Dusty. People are all about the
Yeah,
nostalgia.
I
and
do-
feeling.
That's the point of
do
them.
agree-
And the regional
I do-
fakes are too messy. I think those are
I do-
fun. Give it to Voltorb. Give it to some weirdos like Poltergeist.
I do agree with Soul here because, like, let's imagine, right? So we got Quilladin, Braixen, and Frogadier. They get
one's
new
like-
type, so they get new types upon evolving. If they mega evolved and they replace the types that they got for Steel, Fairy, and Poison, what would be the purpose of them, getting the types to begin with? It will make
Yeah.
more sense if they got branched evolutions, and those will be the Steel, Fairy, Poison.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
but
tough.
I would say then all of a sudden you don't have Greninja in your game.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
when
that's
you-
not gonna happen.
you
They're gonna gift it no matter what. I am
I-
so guaranteed to that
Yeah,
we're gonna get a gift for Ninja.
I think all of these things make sense, but I think not for starter Pokemon. I think they make sense for other Pokemon, right? Maybe even like dude, I could see like regional fakes of the Reggies or something, right? Like
Yeah.
like take a weird legendary trio and make those
We
a little bit more interesting.
we kind of have that, the Galarian birds in the Pokédex
Yeah,
entries.
exactly. I mean, those are regionals, but yes.
But
Totally agree.
they were prep work for paradoxes. The Pokédex entries, they
Yeah.
say it looks like it's called this. It's compared to they were bad the paradoxes in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude, what if that's why the Johto beasts were in the presents for Pokemon Sleep? We get like, oh wait, then we got paradox beasts. Never mind. We get more paradox beasts.
I thought about that and I was like, no, they're done with them now. I was like, maybe these guys are gonna get more forms or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, they can't. They just can't. Going back to the starters though, I do have how the whole community's just picked the 3 starters that are gonna be the starters. I'm like still very what's the right word? I don't know, but
Skeptical.
yes, skeptical. I was like going to say speculation, but I'm very skeptical that those are still the starters, depending on what we get. Because if we get mixed starters and they get regional forms, I just can't see why those would become regional forms because
Yeah.
they're already based on France kind of things. You know,
How
like
can you
based on
make
French.
how can you make Superior more French?
Exactly.
That's what I've been
Exactly.
thinking
It's
too.
like
Yeah,
it's
everyone,
like so it feels like if they get megas, then that makes sense. But if they are like we get regional forms for the mixed and megas for the Kalos starters, which I think is a very possible situation. It's just like I don't know if those three fit for regional forms, and then we could just be a whole bunch of different Pokemon.
I mean, they
I don't
could
know.
even do
I've
something
been
where
thinking about that.
like like all these French starters are just found in the region, and we get a different set. I think you are right that it does make sense for if Mega's being so integral to even be in the trailer that the starter Pokemon would evolve normally and then get a Mega form. That honestly does make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
That does make sense,
it's
even though I
weird.
don't love the idea. But
No,
Kuro,
it's
yeah.
weird because megas are like I don't know, people have wanted them back for so long, but when
Yeah,
you
so Game
actually
Freak's
think
like ready
about
to give it to
them,
them.
The
it's
thing
like
about Mega Evolution is that the fan base, sadly,
we
they
hyped it
grew.
up too much.
It's not just that. That's part of it. Don't get it twisted. It's that they want for Mega Evolution to be given to already broken Pokemon,
Mhm.
or they have this false belief that Mega Evolution is there to fix a
Sure.
Pokemon. It's not there to fix.
It's
It's
like
there
a
to
fool's
enhance.
errand, right? Like the
Yeah, I
idea is to
agree.
make a
Yeah.
Pokemon even more perfect, but
Like
it's like you can't do that.
I remember a lot of people saying we cannot have a Mega Dragonite because the Mega Stone's name would be weird, and I'm like,
That's never
Dragonite's
stopped Game Freak.
Dragonite's Japanese name is Kairyu. It will be a Kairyu Knight. Like Gardevoir's Japanese name is Sir Knight, so a Sir Knight already exists.
Mhm.
Yeah,
True.
it's a good
Yeah,
point.
well, and it's so dumb too, like to actually just think that Game Freak will live and be like, "That sounds funny. We're not
Yeah.
gonna do that." Like they're going to cut it because it sounds funny. They've got a design that they love, but then someone's gonna stop them because, like, wait a second, the item will be called Dragonite in English, and they're gonna go, "Oh, good point. Scrap that design. Throw it out."
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Care so much about the English
It'll be
language.
so
Right.
confusing for the English folk.
I know.
It wouldn't
Those
even be
poor
that confusing.
Americans.
No,
Can we
not at
not
all,
say
yeah.
Dragonite? Is it not that hard? I don't know.
Right. Dragonite,
It's
I'd
it's
say
not
it.
that hard. It's like people are like, they'll never make a Mega Meganium because that sounds
Yeah.
similar. What?
Yeah.
That's why they wouldn't.
It's true.
So
Oh,
so
man.
Kuro, big theories, big plot. I want to get your takes on how Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I'm thinking of Zinnia, Rayquaza, Deoxys, Groudon and Kyogre, Hoopa. I want to get your take on how all these things could maybe tie into the story.
I feel like we are going to get a Draconid character. It
Yeah,
doesn't need to be
absolutely.
related to it doesn't need to be directly related to Zinnia, but the Draconids are, they're the meteor people in Japanese, they're a tribe.
Yeah.
So by having someone from the tribe, it's related in some way, shape, or form, even if it's like a removed cousin, right?
Yeah.
I think it would make sense because having the Draconids here, because of Zygarde, it would expand their lore, and it would also show, more versatility for what a dragon really is, right? Case in point, we see Silver and Master ZX with a Tyranitar battling Lance, and Lance in the manga has a Tyranitar, so there's that. I would like to see a Mega Exploud. I feel like Exploud could warrant a dragon type if it got a Mega
That'd
Evolution.
be cool.
That would be sick.
Yeah, because I'm seeing a lot of Pokemon that could get Megas, and I was looking at, gym leaders and NPC relevant characters from both X and Y and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. And there is a lot. Like, for example, I don't think we are going to get Mega Jinx. I think it's too late. However, I feel like aspects of Mega Jinx could be incorporated into Frostlass
Yeah.
because we got Mega Glalie.
I'd love
So,
that. That'd
and
be
I-
better.
it would be better. And then I was watching, other characters and other stuff from, gym leaders of Hoenn, and then I realized, oh wait, Mauville in Aurus also redeveloped itself, and then we got the Sea Mauville, and we got the new
Exactly,
Mauville
yeah.
that was meant to be an underground bunker. In the manga, it is. in the manga. The Horus games copied a lot of stuff from the manga. Like,
Okay.
so that like the whole thing about New Marvel being an underground bunker, that was in the manga first.
Interesting.
New Marvel really
So-
was like such a crazy thing that they actually
Yeah.
changed it so much
Mm-hmm.
from the original games.
Exactly. So that's the one thing I feel like they're going to use some aspects of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I don't know what exactly,
Okay.
because if Laver City is already established and we have the Pokeball factory there, Pokeballs were not a major thing as of yet, so I feel like we are going to see the Pokeball factory being created. It will not be in Lumiose, but maybe the Pokeball factory will be created.
Yeah.
And because Kalos creates the factory, maybe Silphco and Devon Corporation are going to,
Yeah.
start to be created as rival competitions. Who's to say that if we work for that Quasar company, right? Who's to say that there are not going to be NPCs in the company that will leave the company after the post game and they are going to, develop
yeah.
Devon Corp and Sylph Corp, right?
Well, it says right
Right.
here. This is in Rustboro City when you're talking to the president of Sylph, or not Sylph.
Devon.
Yeah, Devon Corp. He tells the story of how 3,000 years ago, talking about the war in Kalos that was stopped by a weapon made from AZ. We know this story, but Mr. Stone's grandfather, using the story, created infinity energy using similar energy to the ones that the weapon used. So that's from like the text. That's from like the game.
Yeah, that could be it. Like maybe Joseph Stones. That's his name. Yeah, Joseph. Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
Joseph's.
His name's Dusty
Maybe
Stone.
Joseph. Yeah. Maybe Joseph's grandfather will be in the game, and he will be like maybe our rival or maybe like our companion or something around those lines. And
Remember
that's one
Wally?
thing.
Remember Wally was in Wally had an ancestor in
Yeah,
Oras?
it was Benny. Yeah,
Legends.
it's Benny.
Yeah. The ninja.
And that's the craziest thing too, because in X and Y, they do state that Sycamore studied under Rowan. So maybe the Sycamore ancestor might know Kamado.
Yeah.
It would be too convenient, but they would
Sure.
probably
Yeah.
do it.
There are connections there.
Yeah, they would probably do it. As for the professor, I would not be surprised in the slightest, given the proximity of Galar to Kalos, and now that Galar is the thing. I would not be surprised if Levanton shows up in this game.
Yeah, I could see it because he was traveling in Legends
Mhm.
Arceus.
Yes.
He could
I
be traveling around.
Like, we could see Levanton, we could see Heat. There is a lot of characters from like a century or 2 centuries ago that we could see in this game.
Yeah.
It would also play into like the whole like this being a proper sequel. I mean, we don't even know. Like Laventon could be the main professor and be making us do like a Pokedex again because
Sure.
like we have to think about that. That's kind of the main gameplay mechanic. So why would we be wanting to catch every Pokemon? I mean, maybe there's a new reason, but he could be there just being like, "Here's fill out this dex for me."
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Interesting.
interesting the people that could be in this game. I mean, now that we know absolutely nothing about it.
Right, we don't know if it's the
not-
past, future, present. So
Yeah.
like we
Not-
can
not-
speculate Hisui
not-
characters popping up, ancestors, characters that are aged, descendants.
It
you
would
know?
be really cool if it was kind of like a sequel game, or maybe it does the inverse, right? Or I guess yeah. Maybe the game, just like in Legends Arceus, technically starts as a sequel to X and Y, and then we get transported back in time, or maybe I don't know. I feel like some of that could be really cool.
You know who could show up? A Cyrano ancestor, because Cyrano had the Honedge scarf, and his
Sure.
ace is a Rock Terra Superior.
Yeah.
It's wild because that is a good point, the superior. But it's wild the connections, like is this going to connect to? Because there's so many connections to Unova. There's so many connections to Paldea, and there's so many connections to Alola. And then
Yeah, we
there's
didn't even talk
also
about that.
there's also Galar that is like basically the next
Just because
door
it's
neighbor.
just because Galar is like across the sea.
I would not be surprised if the story it's like the World Expo, That's why the Eiffel Tower was built.
Yeah.
So maybe
Kuro,
instead of
Kuro,
you
did
instead
you
of
know
you
it's
vis-
coming out in the same year as the World Expo in Japan? I think there's a World Expo in Japan in 2025. So
Oh, I didn't know. I only knew it was the year of the serpent.
no, yeah,
Yeah, that's a
just
cool
a,
detail.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's a big detail in your what you're saying right now. So
No, it would make sense because like instead of you traveling the world, it would be the world coming to you.
Mm.
So
which also
you
makes
you
sense. Yeah.
you would see Lumios,
And that's
but
what a
it's a
city
mo-
is, right? It's a celebration of
it's
all
a
these cultures and people, and
it,
they bring
it
all
would
their
be
goods together.
I think it's a bunch of buildings in a place.
Yeah, it's a bunch of dirty
no,
buildings
but
and rats
it would be very
and pizza.
multicultural. It would be very multicultural, and even in the Lumios Museum in the original X and Y, you do see portraits of the Sinnoh Battle Frontier, of Ecruteak City, and of Castilia City because they were the regions of Nintendo DS, so they
Yeah.
wanted to pay homage to that. I would not be against of the plot being something around the lines of, hey, you have Zygarde forms in the plazas, but you have to battle people in tournaments like how you did with with Team Star bosses.
Yeah.
What I want Pokemon Battle City. That's what I want. I want
That's true.
Does
Maybe
sound
we
fun.
get a Pokemon Legends game set entirely in Black City next time.
Dusty,
that's
I
what I
sent
was.
you.
That's what I thought when I saw the trailer. Like when I saw those Tron lights, is this Black
yeah,
City?
sure, Black City. I can
Is
see
Yeah.
this
that.
Black City?
Dusty, I sent you something that one of my followers actually recently figured out. Well, a bunch of people figured this out, but the whole synchro machine mechanic thing
Yeah.
is pretty wild in the talk about what could be happening in this game or what time it could be set in. I sent it to your Twitter,
Yeah,
but
looking it up.
basically there's a building. If you scroll up, you can see the first part of it. I think, yeah. There's a building right there, and it looks like this is the synchro machine symbol
Yeah, it does.
on the top of it.
Nice.
And people were like, "No, it's just a Pokeball." And I'm like, "The synchro machine is a Pokeball."
But
symbol.
there's a couple arrows.
Yeah, but the thing is, then one of my followers, if you go back to the original one that I sent you, sent me like the pictures of them all close up, and they all don't
Wow.
connect in the same place. So it is kind of like an S on all of them, and it's like I am 100% convinced at this point that the
Yeah.
synchro machine mechanic is going to be in this game from this.
And if you think about it, like the synchro machine is not too dissimilar from the Bond phenomenon, right?
Yes,
And how, like,
yes,
you-
that's what I'm gonna bring up
Yeah.
about it, because we were talking about the Bond phenomenon earlier, and it's like this tied with the Bond phenomenon and like what time we're gonna actually be in is like there's something here that I don't know what it is, but I'm like more. I don't know if Lumi's more with this because I watched your recent video, but just like us hopping back and forth between times,
Yeah.
kind of makes me. I'm just like I
And-
think that could be, something
And that
going
could
on.
be, and it's as
I
simple
really
as
think that's
that
it.
being Hoopa's
Mhm.
involvement, where there's just a thing, we go into it, and then that's what that is. You know?
Yeah, I even said I said in my video that, again, obsessed with the Lumiose Ghost Girl thing. It'd be cool because like if you're hopping between like the present or the near future and the
Yeah.
past, you're interacting with her while she's alive and while she's dead. You're the one now because you're the one from her past because you were in the past as well as here in the present.
true.
You know, I love that idea.
Yeah, that'd be really
Yeah.
cool.
That would be very cool. In terms of characters, like, because I'm seeing there are some French coded characters in the original games. So we got Juan from Pokemon Emerald, right? Like he's not French, but he's very French coded, right? So given how Annabelle from
That's true.
Emerald
Yeah.
was in Sun and Moon, so there's that. Fantina, depending on what in what country you are, she can speak either French or English, but it would make sense for her to be French because drift blimps were made by French. Like imagine, for example, a Mega Drift blimp
Yeah.
or a Drift blimp evolution, right?
I think it should get a mega.
Yeah.
It would be cool.
Drazna's ancestors,
Yes,
Drazna's grandparents are from
That is the-
Celestic Town.
That is the Dragon Elite Four member in X and
Yeah.
Y.
So they are from Celestic Town. So they would probably know Kogita or
Yeah.
we don't like.
I saw that on
Kogita
Twitter,
herself-
and I was like, "This is
Kogita-
gonna be something."
Dude, Kogita herself doesn't dress like someone from Japan.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
You're very right about that. She has like a European Western style to
yeah,
her.
exactly. As for the characters, I don't think they're going to be called Calum or Serena. Like it would be
Yeah.
like it would be Xavier and Yvonne. They're better names. They would use X and Y in this Z game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's,
This
would-
is this is really interesting. I'm looking at all the Hoenn elite
I,
gym leaders, and I'm like, how could they
I
be
still want
reinterpreted?
I still want the fifth Musketeer and the form for Victini, because Victini
Sure.
is living in Unova during this time. If it's during the Belle Epoque, Victini is in Unova during this time.
Yeah.
I personally think I still believe that there's going to be black and white remakes this year, and I do think that there's going to be more Unova connections than any other thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I personally think. So I think that Victini, that's crazy that if it's there, that would make a lot of sense if it's in this region at
And
that
if
time.
if you bring the limited event time Victini of Pitch Black and Stark White into Legend ZA, he becomes fighting fire, because his whole thing is about bringing victory and fighting spirit.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that way he gets a fighting form and a psychic form, just like Meloetta.
Yeah. Another candidate, I think, for a legendary trio that could get more forms, or maybe new members, would be the Kanto birds, because that's one of the only, I think that is the legendary trio of the Kalos region.
Yes.
Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres roam around the region. I feel like in lore it's really just real world it's really just like Kanto pandering.
Yeah.
But it's nice that they're there. Perhaps we see Lugia and Ho-Oh. Maybe we're not getting that.
I don't
Lugia
think
for a
there's any
while.
way they give
A
Lugia and Ho-Oh a form.
Calosian Lugia.
No way. They're saving that for their own thing.
Yeah.
What's crazy is that after this game, like Xerneas and Yveltal are gonna get forms somehow.
They must.
Then
They have
It's
to.
gonna leave Lugia and Ho-Oh as the last one, so it's
Yeah.
gonna be something wild for them, I think.
Which would be sweet.
I love that, like, we cannot guess what, like, if there's a Legends game after this one, and 3 years after
Yeah.
2025, so 2028, we cannot guess what Legends game that is.
It could be,
Yeah.
dude.
It could be
We
Johto.
should've-
It could be a
we
Alola.
should Galar.
it could
This
be-
one though, we should have guessed this one. We're like really dumb because the connections with Sycamore and Rowan, like
Yeah.
Kuro was just saying, and then Drasna also having connections. There's some big connections with,
But
Kalos
also
and
it just
Sinnoh
being
that I never
related-
had thought of before.
But also just it being related or being so obvious in a Gen 9, right? In the Gen 9 cycle, being so close to Paldea.
I will
it is
I will
so obvious.
I
in
will say
hindsight.
this right. I will say this right now. Given how we got Rowlet for Hisui, and we may get Piplup for this one, that means that the Legends Galar would have Torchic as a starter.
All
If
the birds.
that way a bird gets every Legend game.
Yeah.
If Torchic gets a Galarian form
so good.
of Blaziken, it needs to
needs
be
it.
part Dragon, because it's a cockatrice.
That'd be sick.
I would counter by saying let Torchic be a starter and a Paldean legend, so we can finally get our Barcelos Rooster.
Sure. Super
Yeah,
colorful.
Okay.
It's just
That
gonna
would be
turn
cool.
into Quaquaval.
No.
But
Cole's favorite Pokemon,
another
in
one.
case viewers didn't know.
And before we continue, we do want to thank our supporters, our continued supporters that help us out month to month. Lumi, take it away.
Okay, so we want to give a special shout out to our mythical tier supporters: SEH Art Gold, Trash Panda, Rhinestole, Case, and Brandon and Candace Wendy's. A super special shout out to our Arceus tier supporters:
Oh,
Kate and Vinay Purum. And last but certainly not least, give me a drum roll for our Game Freak Inc. level supporters. Thank you so much. Drogain and Bramtastic, thank you both so much. That is, again, Bramtastic and Drogain are Game Freak Inc. supporters.
Yeah, we
Thank
appreciate you
all
guys so much.
so much.
It's been such a crazy month. Like, we're not only are we hyped from Legends ZA in that whole announcement, but the community's showing up. A bunch of new people are funneling in, and also you guys are coming to help us, maintain this show week to week. We've even been trying to upload more frequently than that. So if you want to have your name read during the show, during the podcast, the weekly podcast, you can join and become a channel supporter on YouTube or on Patreon. You can get access to our entire archive of secret power episodes. Those are secret podcasts that you probably haven't heard yet. And you can also
Talked about aliens.
we talked about ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about a lot of weird stuff.
We talk
Actually.
about stuff.
I think I want to go back and watch those.
Coffee,
A lot
that was
of
one
food.
episode.
Yeah, no, coffee
Really
was
a
one
lot
episode.
of food.
Soul ate an octopus once.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
so
that's true.
true.
I
You were
did.
in
That was
Italy.
episode 1.
Mhm.
Yeah, you were in Italy when we did episode 1. That's crazy. And also, you'll get access to our secret Discord, and you can chat with us. I don't know why anyone would want to chat with us, but you can do that. All right, thank you so much. Kuro, do you have any closing thoughts when it comes to what to expect and any fun theories that you might have for Pokemon Legends ZA? Because I think we've got a long time to wait, but, you know, there's
I
also
think
plenty to theorize about.
Everything that I theorized, I think I already posted or did videos on it, or I
Sure.
discussed it here. I think we need to see we are going to see new mons. I don't know what
Yeah.
they're going to be, but then again, I feel like a fifth musketeer would be welcomed, like
Or a
like
legendary trio that they never got.
the
You know what I'm
ABC,
saying?
the ABC legendary. Yeah, because we
Maybe.
got
That's true. Just a brand new legendary trio. I like that.
because we get the legendary and we get the mythical. We never get the sub legendary.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I never liked the term sub legendary. For me, it's very weird that they call those, because it's just because they're not box art mons, they are classified as sub legendary. I don't like that it's being diminished. Like, use another word, like call them fabled Pokemon or something. Like,
I mean,
imagine,
that
for
sounds
example,
sick. Fabled
like-
Pokemon.
fabled, right? You know,
Yeah.
Raikou, the fabled Pokemon. Like,
That sounds sick.
it
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah,
it
mythical,
sounds
we
great.
have mythicals, fables, and legends.
Yeah, like,
That's
I feel like
sick,
they
dude.
are lesser
And-
though.
They are
I get
lesser
it.
because they're also less
and-
powerful. They have like a lower base
And like,
stat
for
total.
example, the Ultra Beasts and the Paradoxes make a new category. Call them cryptids. Call them cryptid Pokemon or something. Like
or
like
cosmic
there's
Pokemon.
there's words in the dictionary. Use those, Game Freak, please.
Yeah, pick up
Yeah.
Game Freak. Pick up a dictionary.
Exactly. Like as for whatever, like
Yeah,
so we get 28 megas in X and Y and 20 more in Auras. How many megas do you guys think we're going to get in this game?
probably. I'd say another 20.
Anywhere, but I would say between 10 and 20.
I want
10
more.
and 20.
I want. It depends though. Like it's like what we were talking about. If we
Right.
get something else, then
Mhm.
yeah, then 20 sounds good, and then like
Because
5
if we
or
don't get
5 to
anything
7
else,
evolution.
I could
It'll be
see
kinda
like
disappointing.
the same amount as Oris if we don't get anything else. But
So-
I feel like
so-
if we get variants or convergence or
Hmm.
all paradoxes, whatever, I feel like the mega number will be
I'm-
between
I'm
10
as-
and 20.
I'm asking this because I was going through a list, right? And out of the 48 Pokemon that get megas, only 10 change types when they mega evolve. And I feel like that could be something that could work on with mega evolutions.
Yeah,
And I was watching the mega evolutions of, characters from X and Y and Auras, right? Like, for example, Viola, she has Vivillon and Surskit. Vivillon has 20 patterns. It doesn't make sense for Vivillon to get a mega, but Masquerain could. I feel like Masquerain could have a mega because
Yeah.
Surskit being water reflects the liquid state. Masquerain being
Dude, I
flying
love
reflects the
Masquerain.
gas state. So imagine like a bug ice Masquerain to be like solid, right?
yeah.
Like
Masquerade's
Be-
an S tier bug.
Yeah, like for example, we got Gloom got 2 split evolutions, Valplume and
Dude, where's
Bellossom.
Weeping Bell's split evolution?
Yeah, we were meant to have that for the Sprout Tower. We never got it. Like
Fun
Mega
fact.
Victory, like dude, Mega Victory Bell. We need a Mega Victory Bell, man.
A little bit of Dusty lore. First wild encounter shiny in X and Y with the lowered odds when I was a wee baby was Weeping Bell. Just saying. I
Wow.
still have it. It's actually the same Pokemon I used. It's the same Victory Bell I used in Kitakami. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So
Nice.
I was watching other mods, like for example, AZ has Torkoal, Golurk,
Sure,
Sigilyph. Those are all great candidates. Like Olympia has Slowking. We got
Yeah.
Slowbro. That's also a great candidate. For Wolfric, he has a Bulma Snow in the anime. We got Hisui and Evelug. I feel like a Mega Cryogonal could work.
That is the
know.
biggest thing. No, you're
That'd be
absolutely
fun.
right. All of these characters, one of the biggest criticisms for X and Y, which we will discuss in our X and Y, our Hidden Power X and Y retrospective. Make sure you subscribe to watch that. One of the biggest criticisms is that all of these mega evolutions are not showcased throughout the story, right? They're
Yes.
unlockables at the end of the game, but they're not actually part of the story, which is X and Y doesn't have a story. Anyways,
That's not true.
Kuro,
No,
I want to
It's a
hit
story.
you.
It's not great.
like for example, I could see a Drudigan being part rock because of the Notre Dame gargoyle.
Oh, for sure, dude. Yeah, that'd be
This
sick.
would be the time. This
but
would be
things
the
like
time.
that, I'm like, I want it to be a true evolution.
Me
and
too,
not a
yeah.
mega.
Yeah, well,
Because in
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah,
problem
has-
with Mega Evolution.
has any Pokemon gotten a Mega and then also received later on an evolution? I
An
don't
evolution.
think
Nope. Not only that's happened with G-Max though, because
so.
Duraludon.
Sure,
Yeah, they could
little different.
break this whole pattern.
but
that they've
G-Max
I'm
isn't
hoping.
evolution. Mega evolution's
Evolution,
literally
that
had. I know,
called
is
but
the
it's
evolution.
thing, right?
it is holding them back though. You know, like it's just like they can never get anything else just because they have a Mega now.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
You know?
I think they
And-
change that
and then-
someday.
And then I decided to see Pokemon that got forms or a unique treatment and see if their counterparts could get Megas.
Yeah,
So I decided to see, for example, we got Hisui and Lilligant. I feel like Whimsicott could get a Mega.
yeah.
I feel like Groudon, like Corphish, it's stated to not be native to Hoenn, and Corphish is the starter of Tierno,
Oh,
so I feel
true,
like a Groudon could work.
Tier.
We got Hisui and Obstagoon, so no, we got Galarian Linoon to Obstagoon. I feel like my Tiana could get a Mega.
Yeah,
Starmie because of the Sundial, Chandelure and
This is a
Weavile
good
because
list.
of Chandelure and Weavile because of Pokken. There's a lot, man. There's a
Yeah.
lot of 'cause
There are a lot, and they could do like
they
I
could
don't know
do a
how
lot.
I don't know how they would do a whole lot, but getting to another 50 would be interesting. Because it'd be like 100 megas.
Yeah.
and we need to consider Halola and Galar Pokemon into the
Mhm.
equation. I don't know if
Definitely.
they would do it, because to me,
No, I think
feel
they
like
could. I think they could
like-
totally
like-
do that.
all of the Generation 7 designs, to me, they already feel complete.
Yeah.
If they were to get a Mega, it would just be weird. Some mons could have an evolution.
Oh,
but I don't
complete
feel
in
like
that
they-
sense? I thought you meant
f-
complete as in their final evolutions have been revealed. Therefore, they're safe to
in
get a
ter-
Mega evolution, which
in-
is a
in-
fourth
in ter-
evolution.
In terms of design, like for example, I feel like Pyukumuku could evolve again,
Yeah.
but I don't need a Mega Pyukumuku.
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
Yes.
I don't think that's on the cards, bro.
Yeah.
Mega Pyukumuku.
You never know. You never know. I
Yeah,
agree
we got
though.
Mega Adino. Kuro, I'm gonna hit you with this last question.
Sure. go
Will
for it.
we see AZ in Legends ZA?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, we will.
Great.
I think-
Kuro, let the people.
Yeah,
So,
don't
so,
do that.
so no, here's the thing, because AZ in X and Y, he has 3 Pokemon at level 60.
Yeah.
So I'm fully prepared to see AZ with a full team of level 50s if he uses Torkoal, Sigilyph, and Golurk. But I'm also fully prepared to see AZ having a full team of level 80s like Volo, but they are not his X and Y mons. Because
Yeah.
his X and Y mons are his new team, because the old ones, they're a century old.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's actually a good point. Yeah. They can give him
Give-
a brand new
gi-
team.
Give
He has a.
AZ
He has a.
give AZ a team of just Mega Evolutions.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
That'd be insane.
All right, Crow. Let people know where they can find you. We really appreciate you coming on today.
Oh, thank you always. You can find me on Kuroblitz on YouTube and Kuroblitz96 on Twitter.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Links are in the description. Go show the guys some love. The show's not over. We actually have a bonus episode over on our Patreon, also available to YouTube channel members. There's a whole nother bonus show of us talking to Kuro Blitz. Just $5. Links in the description. We'll see you over there. Thank you, guys. Love you. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Kuro.
Super great having you on.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon, buddy.